The universe has something important to tell you, and maybe this is the right time to listen. It doesn't matter if you've tried to let it go or if you pretend you don't feel it anymore. There is something in the air that insists on pulling you back to a connection that, no matter how confusing or distant it may seem, still carries answers that time alone has not explained. Today, the universe wants to offer you clarity, not to keep you trapped in the past, but to help you see what still beats within you. Some stories don't end clearly, they just change pace. They remain suspended in time without an official ending. And it is in this interval between what was experienced and what was not resolved, that the universe wants to talk to you now. That person who once touched your heart so intensely still feels the weight of their absence. And it's not just his physical absence, but the silence that came afterwards, the absence of words, the lack of explanations. Even though it seems far away today, there is a part of her that is still attached to the way it all happened. And the strongest feeling at that moment is a feeling of shame. Not for leaving, but for staying in a pattern for so long that hurt you. And knowing this now makes her look at herself with discomfort. This awareness did not come suddenly. It was gradually accumulating in moments of lucidity, in small comparisons with other connections that didn't even come close to the depth that she experienced with you. There is a painful contrast between what you had and what she has today. And this makes her reflect on how incapable she was of dealing with that relationship the way she deserved. Maybe you still carry that wound. The feeling that everything was just a projection, that you fell in love with an image you created, with an ideal version that didn't stand the test of time. But what the universe now shows is that this version did exist. She was real. The problem is that the person was not ready to support it. When you started to love more fully, she started to pull away, perhaps out of fear, perhaps because of an internal imbalance that she couldn't even name at the time. And this is where everything begins to change, because at that exact moment this person is immersed in a phase of introspection. The lack of contact between you is not empty. It is a space where she observes her own mistakes more clearly than she has ever been able to before. And in this process, she recognizes that she brought into her relationship with you the same behaviors that had already destroyed other connections in her life. This repetition of cycles, with distractions, emotional addictions, superficial relationships, made her lose what was most valuable. And now, even without knowing how to act, she understands how big a blessing it was to have met you. His presence caused a rupture. You represented an outlier. It wasn't just another story, it was the beginning of a transformation that she is still trying to understand. And the most curious thing is that even without being by your side now, this person feels that you are still a reference, someone who showed them a higher path, more aligned with what they secretly want to be. The guilt he feels is not just for his past actions, but for not allowing himself to evolve while he was still with you. She sees that today, that you were patient, that you tried, that you offered more than she could give back at that moment. Perhaps her silence seems like cowardice to you. It may irritate you to think that this awareness is only now arriving, but the universe asks that you listen to this without judgment. This person is experiencing a downfall. The world she built around herself to try to replace you is crumbling, and at the same time, for the first time, she feels lightness, because now she understands what she didn't see, that quantity is not the same as depth, and that you were, yes, the safest place she has ever known. She doesn't look for you yet because she doesn't know how to approach you. There is shame, yes. There is a genuine fear of causing yourself even more pain, and, most importantly, there is a desire not to repeat the same mistakes. She doesn't know if you're still there, but she thinks of you with respect. And even without telling you, she recognizes that you were the only person who really made her look inside. When two people drift apart, there is always an apparent reason, a misinterpreted gesture, a conversation that didn't happen, a frustrated expectation. But most of the time, what really separates two souls is wasted time, the delay in recognizing what one feels, the hesitation in acting, the attempt to push the discomfort to later. That's exactly what happened here. Once you were out of their field, not just their routine, but their life as a living presence, that person turned to whatever was easier. Old habits, fleeting ties, distractions that made her feel important without having to confront herself. And for a while, that seemed enough. It was as if I could silence the echo you left, pretending the emptiness was normal. But time, when ignored, takes its toll, and now this charge has arrived. The parallel relationships she sought to fulfill what you represented began to fall apart one by one, without warning, without structure. Nothing stands when it is built on the denial of a true feeling. The truth is that this person was deluded, thinking that they could replace you, that it was possible to live with less depth, as long as it was convenient, but it wasn't. Because your presence changed something fundamental in her. You made her feel what she couldn't name, made her realize the distance between being accompanied and being truly connected. And when everything around her started to fall apart, it wasn't just you that came to mind, it was the feeling of peace that she only felt with you. The freedom to be vulnerable, the comfort of not having to pretend to be strong all the time, the relief of being able to fail without being abandoned. That's what you were offering, even without promising. Today the universe shows that this person is alone in a different way. It's not the loneliness of someone who has no one around, it's the loneliness of someone who realized they were surrounded by superficiality. And in the midst of this dismantling, she doesn't blame you. On the contrary, for the first time, she understands that it was she who pushed you away, not with harsh words, but with the absence of presence, with unfulfilled promises, with the lack of courage to grow by your side. There is a silent awakening happening within her at this moment. Not a hasty repentance, but a deep inner confrontation. She looks at everything she experienced and realizes that by avoiding discomfort she also avoided her own evolution, and that denying what she felt for you was not protection, it was self-sabotage. The most painful thing is that she knows that it may be too late, that your life may have taken another path, that you may be at another stage, more at peace, more whole. And yet there is a part of her that waits. Not that everything will go back to how it was, but that you might one day hear what she never had the courage to say. This process of recognition is more difficult than it seems, because it requires her to clearly see everything she did or didn't do. And when the universe takes away the distractions, what's left is the truth. And the truth is, she failed you. But there is something even stronger emerging, the desire to do things differently. For the first time, this person doesn't just want to alleviate guilt. She wants to become someone better, someone who deserves the kind of love you gave her. And this doesn't come from cheap regret. It comes from the real pain of having lost something that she now sees was rare. This path she is beginning to follow is not simple. It is a path that requires humility, patience, and time. But the desire to go through it is present, because you were unintentionally the beginning of her awakening. And that's why, even without words, even far away, you are still a point of reference. She is learning to look at herself honestly, to put aside her pride, to accept that she failed, but that she can still change. And most of all, you're trying to figure out how to reconnect with what's true, including yourself. When everything falls apart, the noise is not always what marks the end. Sometimes the loudest sound is the silence that follows. It was in this silence that this person finally began to rebuild himself, not on impulse, not to prove something to you or the world, but because he realized that he could no longer continue being who he was. The universe, when it wants to teach us something important, removes one by one the crutches we use to avoid growth. In this person's case, it meant losing control over what had previously been taken for granted: friendships, status, empty routines, constant distractions. Suddenly, all of this started to sound artificial, and what was left was a mirror. She in front of herself, without filters. It was at that moment that she began to realize the value of everything she had ignored. His words, which previously seemed exaggerated, now make sense. Your way of seeing the world, previously seen as too sensitive, now seems wise. She is beginning to understand what you have known for a long time, that ignoring the inner call only postpones the inevitable, facing your own truth. And this truth now imposes itself not as punishment, but as revelation. This person is slowly dismantling the image they built to protect themselves. He is recognizing that he dressed in self-sufficiency so as not to show his fear, that he pushed away those he wanted closest to him because he didn't know how to deal with real intimacy, that out of pride he rejected exactly what he most desired. You were the greatest example of this, because she wanted you, but didn't know how to keep you without feeling like she was losing control. She admired you, but she couldn't admit it, not even to herself. And now, as she observes what she has become, she realizes how much your light illuminated parts of her that were still in shadow. That's why you remained so present even from a distance, not out of attachment, but because it was with you that she experienced the beginning of something real. And within her there is an immense desire for a new beginning. Not a return to the past, but a more mature, more conscious, more free encounter. But she knows that for that to happen she needs to really change, and she is trying in silence, without fanfare, without expectations. She is studying herself, asking herself why she reacted the way she did, why she sabotaged her own happiness, why she was so afraid of surrender. And the more she dives into it, the more she realizes that you were never the problem. You were the invitation to healing, and that scares her. This phase is delicate because she doesn't yet know how to introduce herself to you again. She doesn't want to come up with empty promises or hasty apologies. She truly wants to become someone who lives up to what you could live together. And this takes time, it takes silence, it takes internal effort, but even without saying anything, she's rooting for you. She wants you to be well, to have found yourself again, to be reaping everything you sowed. And at the same time there is a fear that you have gone too far for her to reach again. There is this fear of having lost you forever. Still, she continues one step at a time, facing old fears, breaking internal pacts that taught her a version that no longer serves her. She is doing the work she previously avoided. And every little change has you as a point of comparison. Can I now be someone who doesn't hurt the people I love? The universe is guiding this process, and this person is finally willing to move on, not for you, but for themselves, because they understood that the life they were leading was a repetition of empty patterns. And now he wants truth, he wants connection, he wants, who knows, a new chance, but only if it's real. There comes a point where the silence starts to hurt more than the fear of the answer. This is when the lack of contact, which once seemed necessary, begins to seem like cowardice. And this person is exactly at that point. The universe has pushed her to a crossroads. Continue observing from afar or find a way to finally get closer. She thinks about you often, not in an idealized way like before, but with the clarity of someone who understands what she has lost and what can still be rebuilt. She still doesn't know what you feel. She's not sure if your heart still has room for this connection, but she wants to try, even if the attempt is full of hesitation, full of doubts, full of pauses between each written word. The first impulse is to look for you. Write something simple, direct, perhaps even informal, but the message remains in draft. Why does no sentence seem enough? How can you explain such a long absence? How can we justify choices that, seen from the outside, seem like disinterest or coldness? How do you say you were missed without seeming like you're asking for too much? These questions stop any movement, but at the same time the desire to repair or at least acknowledge what she feels grows, because now she knows she owes you something, not a perfect justification, but a true presence, that even if you have moved on with your life, there is dignity in presenting yourself, in closing cycles with honesty, in asking for forgiveness without wanting to control the outcome. The courage to reappear is slowly emerging. It comes from the little signs the universe has placed in her path. Phrases she hears, songs that reappear, dreams that bring your image, memories that insist on repeating themselves. None of this is a coincidence. Everything points to the need to face what was left unresolved. But it's not easy. There is still fear. Fear of being ignored, of being rejected, of finding out you arrived too late. Fear that you've already learned to live without her, that you found a calmer place, a more stable presence, someone who hasn't run away in the middle of the storm. And as much as she wishes him well, imagining this hurts her, because there is still love. Yes, love. Not the one full of expectation and need. But the love that recognizes, that respects, that still wants to be close, even if in another way. This person has been wondering if there is a way back. Not to the past, but there is a space where you can see yourself with maturity, with truth, without masks. She doesn't want to invade your life, she doesn't want to interrupt anything you're building, but she would like with all her heart to be remembered fondly and, if possible, to meet you again with new eyes. So she is trying to prepare herself so that when the time comes, if it comes, she doesn't repeat the same mistakes. And most importantly, this time, she wants to be a presence that adds, that builds, that respects your limits, that understands your silences, that does not demand what cannot yet be given. She wants to present herself as someone who has experienced pain and chosen to learn from it, as someone who is not returning out of nostalgia but out of transformation. If, for some reason, you still keep this person in some corner of your heart, know that the universe is preparing a new encounter. It may have a date, it may not have a defined form, but there is an energy of reconnection underway. Something is moving behind the scenes and the first step may be closer than it seems. This person, for the first time, is putting their presence ahead of their own pride. She is willing to risk discomfort, insecurity, fear, because she understood that feigning indifference hurts more than admitting the truth. And the truth is, you never left her. Some reunions don't happen with words. Sometimes it all starts with a simple shift in energy, a silent intention, a sincere thought, a lighter vibration. And that is what the universe has now cultivated between the two of you, an opening, a space where something new can be born, not as a continuation of what was, but as an expression of what has become. This person no longer wants to meet you again to relive the past. She wants to find you again to create something truer, cleaner, more conscious. What you experienced before was strong, intense, but also marked by blockages, fears, and immaturity. Today she doesn't want to repeat the same dynamic. She wants to look you in the eye and be seen as she really is. She wants to see you without idealizations, wants, above all, to feel that there is space to build together, even if with slow steps, even if with care. The universe shows that there is a real possibility, but it does not depend only on a concrete action, a message sent, or a scheduled meeting. This reconnection begins within. It begins when both feel ready to embrace not only the other, but their own history, when they accept that past mistakes do not need to define the future, that silences were part of the process, that distances taught what presence alone could not reveal. That person continues to observe you from a distance, admiring the person you have become. And yes, she is afraid that you are doing so well now that there is no more room for her in your life. But even so, hope that love, when it is real, does not disappear, it only matures. It transforms, adjusts, finds new ways to express itself. She is willing to walk more lightly, without trying to control the steps you take, and is finally understanding that love is not possession or urgency. Love is true presence, even when time and life put you on different paths for a while. If there is a place within you that still pulses with this connection, the universe invites you to listen to it carefully, without rushing, without weighing down expectations, but with the courage not to ignore what still vibrates. The reunion may not happen exactly as you imagine. It may be subtle, it may come little by little, it may be an exchange of glances, a simple gesture, a sincere conversation, but it can happen and it will be different, lighter, more mature, more conscious. This person is changing, is rebuilding himself not out of obligation, but out of inspiration. And you were part of it. His energy ignited something in her that has not gone out. Maybe this was never said out loud, but you helped her see herself, to want to be better, to want a love that doesn't hurt, that doesn't hide, that doesn't run away. So even though there is still distance, the universe wants you to know, nothing that was experienced was in vain. Every gesture, every exchange, every silence had a purpose, and now something new is being born within her and perhaps within you too. If this reunion is possible, may it happen with truth, may it be light, may it be safe, may it be a choice between two hearts that, despite everything, have not completely lost each other. If you felt that this message is for you, trust it. The universe is opening paths for something new to blossom. There's no need to rush anything. What is true is revealed in the right time, and if there is still love, it will know how to find you two again.